This is Teaching to the Test Pattern.
Hey, buddy, welcome to StreamSemester.com's Teaching to the Test Pattern. I'm Tom White, and today, very special guest, very excited to have this man on. We've talked for, it seems like years, and I guess it may have been, but Tim Loreman, who, if you are doing anything live production, you need to go check out his program at Central High School in Phenix City, Alabama. Tim, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Tom.
So let's get started quickly with how you got started. How long you've been teaching? What did you do before you taught? That kind of stuff.
So I got into this kind of sideways, really. I taught for actually AP Economics for 19 years, or really 15 years. My last five, total of 19 years, my last five has been here at Central High School teaching television production. I got started, I worked for a company called MileSplit, and we do live streaming track and field meets and cross country meets. And I had the opportunity to work some of the big, massive track and field meets with huge sponsors around the country, working on huge production teams, Nike out in Oregon. And that background let me have the skills needed to do this job. So I will tell everybody career tech's the place to be if you're in education. Like, get out of core, get into career tech.
And you guys have quite the program there at Central. Let's just talk about football first. Your football broadcast, honestly, I was thinking about it last night after you and I talked about doing this today. Honestly, I would put, in not in your Power 5 divisions of collegiate athletics, but sub-Power 5. I would put your high school broadcasts in the top 50% of collegiate broadcasts in terms of quality and consistency, which is something that's hard to do at a high school level. So talk a little bit about your broadcast and kind of how you get kids interested and involved, because it is truly student produced.
So first I have to say it wouldn't be possible without buy-in from our football team or from our coaching staff of our football team. They truly help make it possible by giving us the access we need. They've bought into the importance of a broadcast, that it's not going to, undercut their bottom line. So we have the access we need there. So got to give them credit first and foremost. As with the broadcast, you got to find students that are interested, students that really want to do it, because let's face it, they're giving up Friday nights doing whatever they want to do, or sitting with the student section. Instead they're standing behind a camera or sitting in a trailer listening to me scream at a TV during a football game. And that's not screaming at them directions. That's me screaming, watching the game like a fan, because I try to be completely hands off. But it's really just, trying to get everybody to work through cameras and find somebody who really likes it. I've yet to figure out how to get a first year camera op to look like a fourth year camera op. That's my big challenge these days.
So you mentioned your trailer. Can you just glance over what all you have in there, kind of your tech for the video nerd for all of us?
So the trailer is an interesting story. 2 or 3 years, I guess it was 3 years ago, where we didn't have a trailer. We are out of town. We're at a non-area game, but it was a big game. We usually leave 1 week open in the football schedule for a big non-area game. And we were out of town. Everything's set up. It's perfect. And the bottom drops out. It is just storming. And I called my principal, and he said, I don't know what to do. People are really wanting to watch this game. So he got in on the phone with the superintendent. The superintendent said, just do the best you can. Don't ruin the equipment. Cool. So we went to that school and we were like, hey, it's storming outside. Can we get inside? and they said no.
Oh,
So what they did give us was they told us that we could move into the broadcast room that already had our announcers in it, which was about the size of a broom closet. So we've got a camera over their shoulder. It's terrible, but it's better than nothing. That next Monday morning, superintendent called me and said, "Hey, go buy a trailer." Uh, which again, you've got to have the support of the school system behind you, or that kind of thing doesn't happen. But they had really bought into it by then. So let's talk about the trailer real quick. We run vMix. I know some people love it or hate it. I think it's the greatest thing in the world, even though, it is true. We are moving to a TriCaster system, but that's going to be a B system. So I'll have an A system and a B system, and that really allows me to do multiple broadcasts. But uh, we used a vMix. It's on a rack. We've got a Focusrite Scarlet 18. I forgot whatever that designator is, but it's the 18 in out. Uh, we've got the capability for 8 SDI feeds, 4 HDMI feeds, and then you don't use most of those anymore. Most of it's NDI driven. Uh, we use Dante, so we have Dante consoles in the trailer for the producer, and all of our camera ops have Dante back belt packs that they can't talk to us. We can talk to them. We just don't want a lot of traffic on that. And then all of our announcers, we have a breakout box up in the press box that runs via fiber line up to them. That they have a confidence monitor for that shows all the instant replays and then the actual broadcast so they can talk. This year we're adding a telestrator. I'm a little nervous about it. Hope those guys can draw. Um, and that's pretty much it. Our cameras are the same X70 Sony X70s that everybody in the state of Georgia uses. As those are slowly dying, we're replacing them with the Z90s because the X70 was discontinued. But
so
they're workhorses. Those are great cameras.
those are great cameras. They really are. I'll be honest with you. I use one at UGA now, just because I had it and I was like, you know what? Let's just plug it in and make it go because it really is a workhorse camera. On a Friday night, how long does it take you guys typically to get set up?
It varies from away game or home game. If it's a home game, I have the luxury. A lot of my kids have me for multiple periods, so I'll send my first and second period kids that double out. They'll drive over to the stadium and run cable for me. Um, the trailer sits there all the time unless it's an away game. Maybe an hour and a half from start to finish set up. If it's an away game, usually about an hour.
Gotcha.
We'll drive there. We'll get out of school early around noon or so, drive there, set up, go eat an early dinner so that we're not starving the whole time for a football game. Those things go to 11 o'clock. We're on the Eastern time zone, just like you are.
Yeah.
So we're 11 o'clock finished and there's nothing open.
No.
So we try to eat early.
So let's talk about other sports you do. I mean, I know you do football. You do softball. What all do you guys cover?
We have a new building, and it's got fiber lines running to. We probably have the nicest softball facility in the state of Alabama. It rivals. It's nicer than just about every D1 college that you would go to. Maybe some of the nicer SEC fields, but we're better than most. And we have camera points on that field because it was integrated with the new building. So we run softball, 4 cameras. They actually ran a fiber line to the outfield so that we have that, ESPN behind the plate pitcher catcher look.
Mm-hmm.
So that's hard lined for us. The new building, they put a roof access so we can get on the roof and do soccer.
Wow.
We're trying that out for the first time here in a week or so. We do flag football because it's at the football stadium, and we do basketball.
Wow. How many broadcasts do you think you do a year?
About 100.
Yeah, that seems about right. So For a teacher who's considering making that commitment, talk about why the live production stuff is so important to you.
Uh, so for me, it's really that it's how I keep the school system buying into what I do, and the fans and the parents. That's the biggest thing. Like you've got to go live. You can't just sit around and go live to tape or you know you, if you want the ultimate buy-in where they're coming to you and saying, "Hey, let's do this," and you're like, "Hey, great, buy that for me," and I will. Ultimately, you've got to show them that this is the possibility, this is where we can take it, and you've got to be live to do that. And sports, people don't want to admit it. I'll admit it. Sports is that gatekeeper, right? You break into that and you find what's important, you do it live. If you're in an art school, do all the band competitions, band concerts, choral concerts, do those live. And that'll really get the community behind you. We're a military community here. I can just about throw a rock and hit Fort Benning. My previous principal is a 2-star general, and it's really cool. He'll text me all the time, "Hey, I'm watching the broadcast," and I've got a whole bunch of kids who parents whose kids are playing or doing whatever, and they're sitting here with me, and he'll send me a picture, and sometimes we'll throw that on the broadcast. That's really cool for me. But again, got to go live. It's the gatekeeper to everything for your program.
And it's egotistical when I say this, but a well-functioning video production program changes the culture of a school.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Talk about your students. Talk about what you see them doing that you see as a win as a teacher that other teachers may not see as they're producing their shows. Like, what are things that you're looking for as you're developing these students and you're seeing your leaders and talk about just the wins, I guess, for lack of a better word, so that other teachers who are in the muck, in the mire of it, can recognize those things.
So and that's a tough question. There's a lot of examples for that. One of the things that I'm really proud of is I have a girl. She's a senior. She's in charge of our news broadcast, and we are by no means what I would call a news program. We're a sports program. People who get into broadcasting teaching, you'll realize quick, in my mind, there's 3 types. There's a film program, a sports program, and a news program.
Absolutely.
We fall into sports. But we dabble in news, right? But one of my students, she's a senior. She's my producer for the news program. And she came in as a freshman, really kind of timid. And now she is just a bulldog. She'll tell a kid, "Hey, you're late on your segment. Why is this not turned in?" She's calling, she's emailing, and she has just really embraced that job, coming from a timid 9th grader to somebody who I would be willing to work for. That's a huge, huge bonus. But you've also got students that, this is kind of this is what they want to do. And they might not be the best kid in math, but man, they are a amazing camera op, right? And they're ultimately, if they're willing to live that life, right? The ESPN life of driving to the jobs or, traveling all the time. It's a good job to have. You've just got to be willing to have that life, but they don't have to go to college for that. But at the same time, I've got kids who, are running social media programs for different colleges right now. And one, University of Alabama softball reached out to one of my students the other day just before Christmas and was like, "Hey, your stuff's killing it. We want you." And she's a softball kid. She's not, I wouldn't say her skill set's where she's going to play at Alabama, which is great because they've reached out and said, "Hey, great, we want you for social media."
And you've got Auburn University right there in your backyard, and War Eagle Productions is one of the top in the country in terms of what they do. So you've got a good little potential pipeline there for your students.
We do. One of our student that actually came through the program didn't really exist before I got here. There was there were some students who kind of did stuff similar to the program, but it didn't really become a fully funded career tech program until I was here. But a kid who came through before, he's actually on my advisory council for career tech. He worked at Oriole Productions, became one of their producers, uh, and now he's at Mississippi State as their head of broadcasting.
Wow.
Uh, Actually, you know what? He just left Mississippi State. He's now working for the company that Mississippi State hires as their third party person. So
A little.
he still has the same office. He said I just changed jobs, but my office is the same.
That's great. You mentioned something there that I think is important. Advisory councils. Talk about the importance of an advisory council for a good CTAE program.
You got to have it. If anybody doesn't know, an advisory council is a group of industry professionals that are kind of in your area, and they're the ones that we rely on to tell us what are the current trends in their specialty. Are you looking at more of a digital format versus film 20 years ago, like moving to a digital format? Are you looking at, we're no longer shooting sports in 720, we're moving to 1080. Uh, you know, these are things that I don't necessarily have conversations with on a day-to-day basis. I rely on those guys to tell me what the current trends in the community are. And, they'll say, hey, you really need to buy this for your program so that you're keeping up, so that your kids are, proficient when they want to get into the industry. And honestly, that's why I'm moving to a TriCaster. You and I had this discussion a while back. vMix, as much as I love it, and it pains me to admit it, is not an industry standard. Whereas I can't afford Ross,
Yeah.
so we're going with the TriCaster, and I've talked to my council, and they all agree that TriCaster experience is important. So, that's an example of leaning on my council, and you've got to have them. They are super important, and they really get your kids jobs. Hey, we need a grip down here. Send a 18-year-old that's got a mind that can think for himself.
And one thing that I will throw in your description that I hear a lot when I talk about advisory councils are there's no industry in my area. Well, since 2020, that doesn't matter anymore. My last advisory council meetings were hybrid. I would have people come in, and I would also have people remote. And that's something that when I talk to teachers around the country, if you're in the middle of Texas, there may not be a big sports industry around there, but they Zoom, Skype, whatever it takes to get those people into your program and seeing what they do. So you talked about mile split earlier, and I told you before we started that this morning I was like, I need to Google Tim and just see what comes up. And one of the things that comes up that impresses me, because and I've known you've done this for a while, when you see it in mass like that, is your relationship with we're going to try it, the AHSAA, which is the governing body for Alabama high school athletics. Talk about going above and beyond and doing those bigger projects like that, and how that helps your students even more.
So let me we do I'm the producer for Sports Week every year for the Alabama High School Athletic Association. And what that is it's their all-star week. They have different committees for each sport that they take applications from coaches, but they look at the best students by each classification in each area, and they become an all-star. And they come in and they compete in like a north-south game, north half of the state, south half of the state. And early on, the AHSAA approached me and said, hey, we would love to live stream this. What do we need to do? And I said, perfect opportunity for my kids. So, we live stream the baseball game, the softball game. We actually do live to tape for golf, just because while we are advanced, we are not that advanced. We do some live to tape for tennis because there's so many courts going on. But it's really neat. I'll take 4 or 5 kids. The athletic association puts us up in a hotel for the weekend, or for the week rather, not the weekend, the week, and treats my kids like all stars.
Wow.
They get all the official coaching clothing for the All Star Week, and it's I have to give it to the HSAA. They really come through and treat my kids like kings when it's all done.
And that's a great experience. And I try to explain that to high school students is that when you get to the next level, so if you go to a college and more universities are recognizing the power of video, but as you get to college and these athletics programs start, I mean, there are several schools that I know that are giving athletic style scholarships to video production students. As you get to that point, there's certain things you don't worry about: where you're going to sleep, what you're going to eat, and what you're going to wear. And that's a great intro for your students into those things. The biggest thing that I see about your program is the consistency across. Like when I open up something from Central High School, I know what it's going to look like. How do you maintain that?
So that's difficult. Uh, I've over here to my left, I've actually got some first year students. They're trying their best to be quiet. Um, yeah, they're all laughing now. You probably can hear that. But I am constantly telling them, and the assignments that we do, I am looking for the next it person. We usually I will assign kind of like a university. I'll assign teams to a team. 2 or 3 kids will take football. Well, actually, it's more like 9 or 10 kids will take football, but 2 or 3 will take baseball, 2 or 3 will take softball, and that kind of thing. And those people are in charge of those sports. But we look at assignments like editing to the beat of the music, different types of transitions, uh, looking at what music we're going to use. What is the feeling? What is the audience? What are we trying to convey here? Uh, and then we also don't try to reinvent the wheel. We look at what have other good programs done here. What are universities doing, and we try to look at that and break it down and try to replicate that, because we know, hey, it looks cool for us, so we're going to redo that, and that kind of keeps the kids interesting, or interested rather. Sorry, excuse me. But it's putting those programs out, or those lessons out, and then identifying the kids that do a good job almost naturally.
Mm.
You can look at one and go, wow, that's pretty good. And then you it's almost like a mentor line. I'll put a sophomore with my older group that's done football last year, and that they kind of learn. It's almost like a
Gotcha.
mentoring deal there.
So one last question, and then I'll let you get back to those thirsty first year kids. What do you tell a teacher who's been teaching AP economics for 15 years and they're about to take over a program or start a program? What do you tell them to get them in, keep them interested, and help make them successful?
You have First of all, if they're leaving core classes and going to career tech, congratulations. You are about to find that your hunger and drive for teaching is going to come back soon. Uh, the next thing is go. People will disagree, but I think go live as quickly as you can. Um, the headache, the train wreck, the the figuring it out. I love that as a puzzle, and we embrace that quick. And that's what I would love about it is solving those problems and having the kids have those aha moments of, wow, even though it's a single camera and we barely have score up there, it's still more than we had last week.
Yes.
And those little victories are huge. uh, and that's really how we grew. Like I said, we're a sports program that dabbles in the news. We don't do video or film or anything like that. But you find your audience, and success comes with that.
And you hit on something that I wanted to make sure that gets highlighted is that you do start with one camera. You don't start with a trailer and 8 cameras and all of that. You start with one camera and figure that out.
Absolutely. And hey, even with a trailer, we still do soccer with one camera, one camera and a computer. That's all we do with soccer. Softball's a little more advanced. Basketball, we use 2 cameras. Everything doesn't have to be a 8 camera production. What are you going to do with 8 cameras for soccer?
Yeah. So where can people see your students' work?
Well, we have a couple different social media accounts. Primarily all of our sports are on the NFHS network. We're a partner school with them. So all sports are on there under Central High School, Phenix City. That's with an E and no O, like the bird. Our social media accounts, we're on YouTube, Instagram. Our kids have a really awesome TikTok account, which we actually made the news, not in a great way. We were used as an example of a high school that has a TikTok account by the AL.com, the big newspaper organization in the state. And first thing I did was call my athletic director and be like, hey, just to let you know, we don't put anything on this account that doesn't go on every other account. Yeah. This is just a way to get to our students.
Yep.
And he, his daughter happens to be the one that runs the account for us. So he was definitely on board. But we're on TikTok. A lot CHS Red Devils is usually what we use. We're on Instagram.
Excellent.
YouTube. I mean, we're all over the place.
Awesome. Well, man, thank you so much for your time. I'll let you get back to those kids and get some good content out there.
Gotcha. Hey, one last thing. Get a good headset.
Yeah.
If your ears hurt by the end of a production, you'll really thank yourself for a comfortable headset.
Yeah, that's the Audio Technica one.
It is. Yeah, they're super comfortable.
They're super comfortable. They're the best. You can wear them literally all day. So there's a free tip for you that you didn't think you were going to get in this podcast. But thanks again, Tim, and as always, go out and make some more awesome.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, man.